I've got this SD40 that does not run, and it's driving me crazy. For the shell removal, I have to remove the two couplers. So let's get right on that. Now that looks like just a pin that you pull. So I've got my little pliers over here. I'm gonna try and pull this very gently. The shell's in okay shape on this. It just has the little steps here broken, front and back. So I've got that, and the handrails is a little broken part here, but all in all, I'm pretty pleased with the condition. One of the horn trumpets is missing too, but it's not in bad shape. So I ended up just wedging my screwdriver under there, but it just pressed in. Kados, they're great because there's no glue. So all these parts are just pressed in. Then the coupler should just pull out. Do the same thing for the back. Obviously the previous owner just pulled on the top of the shell, and that broke all the handrails. But I think the shell is in not bad shape. So I do what I do to every locomotive. I put the leads directly to the motor leads. Directly, you can see the light comes on, so there is power. Just the motor doesn't turn. So that's a real head scratcher. I'm gonna remove the worm gear holder plate here. I'm gonna remove that on both sides. So for that cover, you just come from the side and just release the two little clips. Then you can remove the worm gear cover. This will release the truck. So the truck will be loose, but first we have to remove these two connections. So in order to do that, you just have to make the wire released, pull it inside, have it released from its holder, and then you just remove that terminal. So that terminal is meant for that. So if you ever need to service the engine, you can just move these around, remove your worm gear. It's got a little snap also, but it's not held in very hard. So remove the worm gear and drive shaft, and then you can pull the truck out. And then that can get cleaned, although it looks to be in really good shape. There's a bit of corrosion in there, so I'm not 100% sure what happened. Let's do the same thing for the other side. Then I would like to remove the circuit board, which should be just these screws here. To me, I can't believe this motor is not running. Now, I do need this engine for parts. That's why I bought it. But when I looked at the condition it's in, I can't help but thinking this should run. Anyway, that's my plan, to make it run a little bit. And then when I get around to doing my project, then I can come around and take the parts from it. Maybe I find another parts one in the meantime that's in even worse shape. So it has its own engine cradle, but I believe these two screws hold the engine cradle down. Let's just see if I can pull the motor out. Oh yeah, easy breezy. Then the fuel tank has two snaps here. I don't think I need to remove that. So let's just put this aside for a second. I have never had one of these go bad, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see maybe the commutator needs cleaning. So these are your brush holders. You just pull on them really gently. they should come out. So maybe that's it. Maybe the inside got corroded a little bit. You just pry gently on these and they'll come out. I removed this little cap here, and then the little spring fell out. Then I kept prying on this, and it's releasing it slowly. It does look like there's some corrosion on there, so didn't expect that. Definitely does look corroded, and the little brush is in there. So I'll just pull that out. I'll just use a toothpick to bring it out. And then here it comes. That's my little brush. It actually looks okay. This is graphite. So that's that. I'm gonna polish this up. Maybe that was my culprit. This does not give me a lot of room to clean the commutator, so I'll make some thin strips out of cardboard and I'll put them in there and I'll try and clean the commutator as best as I can. Using my good screwdriver, I'll apply a little bit of pressure, not a lot, and try to clean this as best as I can. I'm getting some of it off there, you can see. My strip is getting darker, so I'm going to keep working on this for a little bit. I cleaned this up as best as I could. We'll know in a minute if it was effective. Okay, I was just about ready to give up, and then nothing was working. It was still dead in the water. Then I decided just to take a look at the top brush here. At the top brush, and the little brush was stuck in its tube, so it wasn't touching the commutator. So then I cleaned it up, and look what happened. It just started working. I'm on the lowest step on my power pack, so very low voltage, sounds great. The takeaway from this is never give up. So I still got a lot of work ahead of me. So we're gonna lubricate, clean, and fine tune everything now. First I put a little oil right where the shaft meets the bearing. Just put a drop there, and I'll use a little bit of thrust. Actually, I'll run it on its own power like that to give a chance for the oil to penetrate. I don't think it needs a lot, but a little bit helps. I'll just run it like that on its own power, so it gives a chance for the oil to penetrate. And I'll do that on both ends. And also, since I have everything apart, I'm gonna clean the frame and the shell with my toothbrush and some dish soap. While that's drying out, I'm going to work on the power trucks. There's a front one and a back one. So I took the time, marked the front one when I was removing it. I did not snap the bearing back. Just these little clips here. So that gets washed first. We'll wash that first and then disassemble the truck. Basically, these are super tuned from the factory. I'm just making sure that whoever's been in there didn't misalign anything. So I just put one drop on each side. And I'll let this dry out over time. And then we'll work on this. There's a plate here that holds the two side frames together, so we're gonna remove that. So I use my favorite screwdriver for that. It's a lot easier if you take the truck out of the locomotive to it. There's basically 6 little pockets that line up and keep that truck in place.
So you can just move them out just a little bit, and you do it on both sides, and that will release the little plate, and the little plate will release your side frames. Just have to go one little tab at a time. They're meant to be invisible when the engine's running. So these 6 tabs here, they hold that plate down. Everything looks clean. Actually, don't put a lot of lubrication in this. And these tabs here, these little tabs here, hold down these little tabs, which in turn hold down the side frames. There, they fit into here. So that holds down your side frames. So now your side frames are free. And you can take that apart and clean it. And then your 2 contact plates. Now this, I don't have to pull hard on this. So these at the same time, they are bearings for your wheels, and at the same time they keep they give power to your engine. That is an amazingly good design. I like it. So that releases your wheels. I have to do a really good job cleaning the wheels. Now this is the front truck. It did not have a lot of corrosion on it. And then I'm left with this. I can split this apart. There's 3 screws. I could remove the wire from here. I don't think I need to. Did I say 6 screws? I'm at 4 screws. There's actually only 2 screws here that will allow me to split the case. And I do want to have a look inside there, because I am going to lubricate inside there. I might not need to, but it just feels right, so I'm going to do it. I'll just split the case open. And then just split the case open. And these gears, they're not all exactly the same. So you want to take your time and keep track of this. This one's just a little smaller. So you definitely want to keep track of this. There's good detail on this. Look at that. There's brake wheel detail on there. That's really neat. And then even on the side frames, there should be brake cylinders here, which I'm missing. I'm sure I'm missing a little baggie of parts that goes on this. So it is what it is. I mean, this was the cheapest SD40 on eBay, so this is why I'm missing the baggie of parts. I mean, there is an advantage, you know, saving a little bit of money, but there's an advantage to spending a little bit more. I'm comfortable with that. It's all part of the game. So I'm gonna make sure, gonna lubricate these just a little bit. I don't put lubrication everywhere, but I want these little gears to get at least 1 drop on these little gears. Just like the worm gear, it gets 1 drop, but these little guys, this is the little wee one. So we'll put the little wee one where it goes. And then the same, we'll just follow these as they go. When you have it all put together, you should feel no rolling resistance whatsoever. So this is how you know you put it together correctly. The way I put them on my table, they were in the exact same order I'm putting them back, so that's the best way to do it. Put them each exactly where they were. So I put a drop exactly on the top there. And I'll bring the other side of the gearbox. And then these two little screws. I'm sure for the people at the factory, these are not too hard to put back together. I don't think the people in the factory are too unhappy with their job. Of course, I'll just do one, but they have to do work all day, probably 8 hours at it. But just doing one is quite the pleasure. I have a feeling doing, 80 of them is okay too. There is a really good video about the Caddo factory. These don't have to be super tight. I'm sure there's a really good video. I saw a really good video about the Caddo factory. People don't look unhappy to work there. Just double checking everything, making sure the gears are easy to move. So far so good. It wasn't too hard to clean these wheels. They weren't awful. So that's that. They don't really have a direction, so that's good news. Even easier for the people at the factory. They don't have to worry about that. So you just put your axles in their proper bearing, and that will line everything up. Line up the other side the exact same way. And that feels good. Just check for resistance. It should go good. Now I don't oil these. I don't think you need to. You may want to, but I don't think I need to. That all feels pretty good. So I'll bring in the side frames. There is an up and down on the side frames. So they go through these holes. And there is an up and down on them. That feels pretty good. I don't know why I'm encountering resistance. And I don't know if they're perfectly symmetrical, but this side seems to go well in there, so maybe they are symmetrical. They look pretty symmetrical. Everything feels great. That's what I'm looking for, just rolling resistance. Just making sure that everything looks good as well. Here you can see little brake shoes through the hole there. That's good detail. I'm enjoying this. It's one advantage of taking the engine apart, is you can really take a good look at every part one at a time and all the really good engineering that goes through. Watch out for cat hair. So this, if it has a direction, it goes like that. It may have a direction. Yes, because there's only one a little tab here. But that lines up perfectly. There is a direction. But I've got it lined up perfectly, so that's going to be good. Should just snap right in. Just like that. Then I check it again, everything feels good. So that will be ready to go. Just put the worm gear back on. That would be ready to go. And then I'll do the same thing for the rear truck. This is the wheel with the most corrosion, so I'll have to be careful and clean that thoroughly. I was able to clean it up pretty nice. You're supposed to use grease on this, and I prefer to use this very light oil. So I'll just put 3 drops on there. That should be plenty. So that's my back truck. I'm about ready to put this all back together. Yeah, you're supposed to use grease, but I prefer the light oil. So we're gonna start putting this back together. As far as the frame is concerned, you can see there's an indentation here for the cab. So that is the front. And then the engine cradle, there's only one way that it goes, so you can't really mess that up. Goes this way only. With its 2 screws. So we're gonna super tune this now. Although they get super tuned at the factory, so if you put it back together the way it was put together at the factory, you can't go wrong. These don't need to be super tight, just hand tight. And then we'll test this again with the power. I'm still at the lowest step. As you can see, the motor turns. It's still very quiet. Every time I add a part, I will test it like this. We're gonna add the front truck now. You can tell that it's the front truck because the way it is.
You can tell that it's an Aspen tree because of the way it is.
Also, the wires are a little bit longer, and I put an F at the bottom just to differentiate them. So just run the wires through the hole. And it's got a little pin here that connects to this hole here. So you just put them together. And then I'll bring in the worm gear. So the worm gear, you can line it up properly just by spinning the drive shaft. And when they catch together, you can just pop it into place. You know, try it with your fingers, but that should be pretty good. And I'll also put the cover on it at this time. Just like that. Looks great. I'm gonna test it with the power again. It's got little holes for the wires, just to manage them properly. Which is interesting. The rear one does not do that. And then bring in the power. Trying to get some light so you guys can see, but it spins freely. That is good news. And quiet too. Thing of beauty. Actually pretty easy to put it back together. I don't know, do you think it's easy? You can put that down in the comments below, whether you think it's easy or hard. It's the same thing. I'll spin the flywheel until it lines up. And then when it lines up properly, I'll spin it on there and put its little holder. Oh, I'm a little bit off of where I want to be. There we go. That sounds great. Try it with the power again. It really was driving me nuts that this engine wasn't running, because usually these are pretty solid. I'm not gonna say you can't kill them, but if you do something wrong with them, they won't work. But if you put it back together properly, look at that. All the wheels are in, all the gears are in, and it's still running on the lowest setting and very quiet. Very quiet. That looks pretty good to me. Next, the circuit board. And it does have a direction because these holes line up with the light piping on the roof. So it's got to be this side is the front. You can see the hole for the cab. So I put an F on it also, so I could find out the way. But basically this is the front with the little circuit board for the lights. And this lines up that way. So I line up the screws with their receptor, and I'll just start them. Just start them here because I have to do some connecting on this. But I'll just start the screws so I can work and then not have to worry about lining them up. So I've got some connections to make. There. So that's still loose. I can make my connections. Basically these have to go under that wire. Get my good screwdriver around. You can see there's a hole for this to pass. So it has to pass under here. And under that wire as well. Just like that. That looks great. And then just make sure I've got these in their correct spot, because we're gonna come back and make them line up properly. So that connection is not very sophisticated, but at the same time, it has proven reliable in the past, and it will run the engine. So you need to make those connections. There probably is a nice drop-in decoder for this. I've decided not to do any HO DCC and sound. Basically what interests me in HO is I can get a nice brass engine for about the same price as one Broadway Limited DCC and sound engine. And I've decided that's the way that I want to go. Just gonna line this up properly. So I've got to connect my trucks. I've got 3 more connections like that to make. So I'm just gonna test out my connections. Make sure that everything's working. That's really cool. And then the back one, the same thing. So that works. Now I can go try it on the track. So basically that's what I wanted. The steam engines, I wanted brass. And for diesels, I wanted the cathode because they're so smooth. You can see it going nice and slow. And then change direction. Same thing, super smooth, nice and slow. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now I can put the shell back on. That is a real sweetie. That's interesting. They made room for a cab, and there's a little cab interior in there. That is really cool. I did not expect that. I mean, if you're gonna DCC and sound these, that's definitely an advantage, because that means you can have a separate light for the cab. Gotta make sure your wires go inside. So I'm taking my time with this. And I'll be reusing the horn hook couplers, which are exactly useful because I'm going to be reusing my my Tyco freight cars from last week. So the Tyco freight cars, they still use the horn hook, so I'll be reusing these. Although now would be a good time to change them out for some Cadies. For sure, that would be the best, since I have them in my hand. Perfect. And now it's time to run some trains. And I get to try out my Tyco freight cars at the same time. That seems to be running great. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.